Call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Blunier.
Here.
Leach.
Here.
Lehman. Here. Mennel.
Here.
Newman. Here. Parrott.
Here.
We have a quorum.
If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Whoa.
Where is it?
And to the republic for which it stands one United States of America,
Indivisible.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Really good. Someone's taking leader.
Wow, that was.
I almost want to redo that.
There are no public hearings today, but we do have a presentation.
Well, we'd like to introduce some people who have made a rather large investment in our community and changed something that was once an eyesore to, I think, something that's very beautiful to look at today. And we are going to present them with a check that is given to them for the facade grant, the business development grant program. The facade relates to doors, windows, plus the outside front. They qualified for a $10,000 grant and wanted to give that to them, recognize them for that. So if I could have John and Amber Thomas and their son Finley and Derek Grimm come up. Derek represents Emerald City Investments, and they actually own the building, and John and his wife are going to be, I'm going to guess, the operators of the Forge Steakhouse. They're both going to get to say something to explain what's going on, and then the mayor will close. So, Jeff, I'll let you. And we're thankful for the investment that you have made into the village of Morton, and wish you the best of luck. And so I'll let you guys say whatever it is you're going to say.
My name is Derek Grimm, and I represent Emerald City Investments. I've got two other partners, and we purchased the old blacksmith shop from Willie Glick 3 years ago now, and with the vision that someday we would turn it into something like this with the help of great construction crews and the vision of John and Amber and the village and this grant, of course. We're very excited that this is going to open up very soon. Our main goal when we purchased, my two partners are Dan Goodeman and Jason Scarf. And when we purchased the building and negotiated with Willie Glick and the Glick family, our main goal was not to tear down the front of the building and try to completely empty it first and then build it into something that could be great for the community, as I think it's well recognized, especially from the folks from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The building, when you mention it, they know exactly where it's at. We were hoping that someone would come along and someone could possibly do a restaurant. My partners and I did not want to do that as far as own and operate the restaurant, but we thought it would be a great idea and be a great not only location but also just a great facility, or could be. I don't think we thought it would turn out to be this great or what it looks like now, but we're very pleased that it has. And a lot of that's just, we owe thanks to the village for working with us, and John and Amber, and the construction crews and everyone who's had a hand in this. It hasn't just been us, but we're very thankful that it's going to open soon, and that all the hard work, hopefully that'll pay off, and the Forge Steakhouse and Cyberfire will be a great place for not only folks in Morton, but maybe people from Peoria and the surrounding areas to come over and enjoy Morton and downtown Morton. So.
Well, I'd like to, we've got our little guy in tow here tonight. He's not feeling so great, so I'm going to have to hold on to him. So hopefully he'll let me get through this. I want to say thank you as well. This has been a big project. A lot of people have asked Amber and I kind of what led us to this point, if this was our long-term dream, and the answer was no. It wasn't our long-term dream. We were both Caterpillar employees. Amber, second generation for 15 years, myself for 12 years. And after Amber suffered her stroke, about a month after she turned 38, we started to look for something that we could do together that she could be a big part of. And we kind of listened to the community and the things that everyone wanted and did some research for some things that we thought we could bring that would be unique. And just by chance, a chance meeting with Derek and Jason on the site, we found this building and really found it by searching the Morton EDC website. So that was kind of nice, so thanks for that. And it's been amazing how the vision that we had meshed so closely. Meshed so closely with Derek and Dan and Jason's hopes for the building. So it's been fantastic.
I'll do me.
You're gonna do you? Okay.
All right.
You can see who's in charge, right? And we passed all of our health department inspections today. So,
Guys,
well, hold on. I have to tell them a little bit, okay?
God's doing it.
Okay. And so we are very close to opening. We've got a few things to work out and a couple more pieces of equipment to bring in. We were hoping for a grand opening on December 28th. It might end up being the 1st, but we are hoping to have an open house on either Friday or Saturday this week. And so if you do follow us on social media, on Facebook, you'll see those announcements, and we encourage you to stop in to see, if you haven't been through, to see the transformation of the building. It is
Wait,
absolutely
I'm doing
impressive.
I'm doing
And we're going to be bringing something unique.
It's me.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me finish up. So, I mean, there are several things that are unique about the location, not just the history of the building. Hopefully, Clinton, when you filmed your commercial with your son, it went better than this.
20 takes.
But we're doing some things that are unique.
What about me?
What about you? Hold on one second, buddy.
No.
And we think it'll draw from actually a pretty wide area. The Cyberfire Shooting Lounge in the back of the building is like nothing actually in the entire Midwest. You'd have to go to Arizona or to New York to actually see anything like that. And so we're really hoping that it will draw people from a pretty wide radius. So again, thank you. This helps a ton. I mean, our investment was pretty large, but any amount is beneficial, and we're very thankful that we've had the support of the community, and the community support has been fantastic. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to congratulate him, as community. I've done a lot of remodeling on buildings in Peoria. This is no easy undertaking to do an old building. It is absolutely not easy. There's a lot of issues that come up throughout the building, and to have this done in Morton and the quality that it is, it's outstanding. And want to thank and congratulate both of you, and we look forward to it. A lot of people keep asking me what's going in there, so I thought it was time we put it on the TV and let everybody know what's coming. So thank you, John. And the city has a little Christmas ornament this year for
excellent.
you, and we honored the volunteer firemen on the back of it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the food.
The gift cards? Oh,
They
no
were a
problem.
big hit at the village
Glad to
Christmas
hear
party.
it. Glad to hear it.
So thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for coming. And the restaurant is kid-friendly.
It is good friendly, absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comments? Anybody in the audience?
Good evening, everyone, Mayor and trustees. Leanne Brown with the Morton Economic Development Council, and certainly exciting news with the Forge and Cyberfire, so congrats to them. And continuing that theme, just have a couple cards to pass around if the mayor and trustees are willing to sign. Wanted to send a congratulation off to Brett Bisbing, Farmers Insurance, for his growing company, a recent recipient of our Morton Micro Grant. Also NHS, Sean Robinson, with bringing his company to town and still growing his commercial side of his business. Also recently received a micro grant. And then Unum, with their expansion already well underway, and look forward to springtime coming around and getting their addition. I know the village was certainly a huge help in getting that project off the ground. So if you want to sign those at the top from the mayor and trustees, we just thought we'd send them a congratulation. And then we had a St. Louis-based company, Liberty, that we met with them last week. They're looking for some small office space. So we just thought we'd send a letter off to them that we look forward to hopefully welcoming them to our community. And then just a reminder that our EDC annual meeting will take place on Thursday, January 30th. We have a great opportunity to be at Caterpillar Global Parts Distribution here in Morton. I think a lot of us drive by, see that large facility, and many of us have maybe not had a chance to go through the facility. And they've made some impressive improvements over the last several years with just incredible technology and innovation. And so we'll have the opportunity to be there for breakfast, hear some EDC updates, issue out our Venture Award, and then they're going to offer some tours for the attendees. So that's Thursday, January 30th, starting at 7:30. Invites went out, and reservation is open on our EDC website. So that's all I had to share, other than wishing everybody a very Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. The consent agenda tonight is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting, December 2nd, 2019, and the approval of the bills.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments? Call the roll.
Blunier,
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Mennel,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I have nothing tonight. Village clerk,
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
village administrator.
I have 3 items tonight, Your Honor. Item A is the Morton Fall Tourism Grant Round recommendations from the Tourism Grant Committee. The Tourism Grant Committee scored the applications that were received. We received 6 applications in all. Actually 3 for the smaller $3,000 community grant and 3 for the larger overnight grant that is $10,000. The applicants were the 8th grade boys basketball tournament at Blessed Sacrament, the Fourth Fridays events that's put on by the Chamber of Commerce, Handel's Messiah concert that was put on by the Morton Community Chorus, the Small Town Pastors Conference that's put on by the Rural Home Missionary Association, the Civil War Days that's put on by Tri-County Living History Association, and then the Civil War School Days, which is put on also by the Tri-County Living History Association.
Could we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments?
Just a question, the Civil War Days, I mean, that's broken into 2 different events. I know one's the school, you know, they have the school kids out there, and the other's for the general public, but.
Correct.
So they qualified for 2 different grants then?
Right. The rules say they can get up, any one organization can receive up to $20,000 in 1 year. Because of the way that these are actually 2 separate events. So, because it's all school children on Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday is open to the public, so.
And there is a lot of kids that come to that.
Yeah, it was,
a lot of kids.
last year was a big event.
Right.
Did we fund both of those? Did we do similar funding last year?
Yes. Yeah, they both had separate grants
I
last
guess
year.
blew right by me last year.
And I did mention, I and 2 of my grandkids did get to shoot cannons the last couple of years. It is actually fun. So,
Perks of being the mayor.
I didn't knock any trees, any buildings down. I wanted to ride the horse, but they're not having a cavalry charge yet. So, any other comments? Call the roll, please.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Mennel,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Motion passes.
The next item, item B, is Resolution 24-20, a resolution adopting policy for fixed asset capitalization.
Could we have a motion?
So moved to approve.
Would you like to explain it a little bit?
If you remember when Virginia was here from Jerpy and Tennyson, our CPAs that do our annual audit, she said that there were two recommendations on the note letter that they sent to us. One was to adopt a capitalization policy on our fixed assets, and one was for the general fund balance policy. This is the capitalization policy for the fixed assets. It does, in the past, we have been capitalizing assets if they were $2,000 or more. As you can imagine, you can spend $2,000 easily on a small laptop computer anymore. So this is a kind of a stair-stepped approach where the threshold, the minimum is $5,000 for furniture and equipment, goes on up to $25,000 for land and land improvements and that type of thing. So this is just putting down on basically on paper what we already do as far as the lives that we use when we depreciate them and that type of thing. But we had never really had a written capitalization policy prior to this. So.
And they are very thorough, so. Any comments by the board?
Just a question, when you look at things like the furniture and fixtures or computers, IT equipment, especially furniture and fixtures, if you were to buy, a whole office, you might spend, more than $5,000. But what if you did the whole office at one time, but each individual piece is, a lot less?
Right.
You still need to capitalize?
No, it would be based on each individual
Okay,
piece.
thanks.
I just have one question on the fixed asset capitalization on where it's a third whereas, where it says the believes the general fund balance policy is the best. Is that a typo?
Oh,
Should that
that's
be?
a typo.
Okay.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. That's what happens when you use the same document. Just try to pick everything up. So it should say fixed asset capitalization there.
Any other comments by the board? Call the roll.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the last item I have tonight is Resolution 25-20, which is a resolution adopting a policy for management of general fund balance.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
You want to explain that too, Julie?
Basically, this outlines how we will maintain the general fund balance. We're looking to, we have different types of classifications under our general fund. What we can spend on a restricted use purpose only, what we would have restricted that cannot be spent. And then on our unrestricted, the board can designate a committed item that you want money set aside for, that it's not a do or die or that type of thing. It's just money committed for it or assigned, and then the unassigned is, it can be used for anything. This also has that we would adopt or maintain an unassigned fund balance of 25% of our annual fund expenditures at all times. That's a kind of a safety net. If something catastrophic were to happen, we would at least have 3 months worth of cash in the bank, pretty much, to pay bills. And then just goes through and talks about how when we do our appropriation, we would check to make sure that the balances that we're appropriating would not reduce the balances below any type of restricted amount. So it's like the capitalization for assets, this is pretty much what we've done. Jeff and I have talked about that before, where we like to have at least 3 months worth of expenses always in reserve, and that's what this is, just putting it down in paper.
Any comments by the board? Call the roll.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Chief of Police,
I have nothing this evening, Your Honor.
thank you. Corporation Counsel,
One item tonight, Your Honor, ordinance number 20-22, which is an ordinance making amendments regarding cannabis, Title 6 and Title 9 of the Morton Municipal Code.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Yeah,
Give a
so
little discussion on it.
this ordinance, the concept of this ordinance would have been mentioned when the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act passed and you acted on a measure to prohibit cannabis business establishments in town. I alluded to the fact that additional regulations be necessary down the road. There's a couple different purposes for the regulations that are contained in Ordinance 2022. First, we're stripping from our code the prohibitions against possession and use of cannabis and cannabis paraphernalia, which have been superseded by state law. So we have to take out the language in our code that is no longer lawful based on the January 1 implementation of the new state law. Second thing we sought to do is incorporate into our code so we can enforce using ordinance violation citations, issues that are anticipated to flow from the legalization of cannabis, things like public consumption, public use, possession in vehicles, use in parks, cultivation of cannabis by those who aren't registered medical cannabis patients. So kind of the regulatory issues that we anticipate will derive from the legalization. We regulated to the greatest extent state law allows us to. Third thing we did is there are areas where the state law doesn't define terms or isn't as specific as, in coordination with the chief, we would like to be locally. So we have clarified areas where we felt like clarification was in order based on language of state law. So we've taken out the language that state law has superseded, we've incorporated state law regulations, and then we've supplemented those to give us locally a tool for enforcement that's functional, usable for us, and gives the officers the discretion to issue ordinance violation citations for cannabis issues. They will have the opportunity when there's a violation of state law and village ordinance to write either a state law ticket or a cannabis charge. Historically, a lot of cannabis violations been handled on an ordinance violation level. A couple reasons for that. One is the limited resources of the state's attorney's office and their interest in prosecuting. Second is we have a different burden of proof in ordinance violation court than we do in traditional criminal court. Certainly officers' discretion up to the department to implement their policies and expectations, but historically we've largely focused on using ordinance violation citations as a tool to enforce cannabis restrictions, and I would expect some continuation of that practice going forward, and certainly Chief can supplement with anything he feels I should have added that I
No,
didn't.
I think you're on point. I think as the burden of proof is a major factor with it being a petty offense. It's more likely than not, as opposed to reasonable doubt, what the state statute requires. Also, there are some instances in the state statute which makes it a civil violation, but yet others that makes it a Class A misdemeanor, which is much more serious than the petty offense in this criminal arrest, such as the possession within the vehicle. But I would imagine our officers are going to be consistent with many of the other state statutes that we have local ordinances for that will enforce first through the local ordinance. One of the exceptions will be with the driving under the influence. We've got an ordinance on that now for alcohol, but we enforce through the state statute under that, so we would be consistent in doing that. So there's a good likelihood we're going to be back at this and discussing with legal counsel. We're both familiar. There's some aware of some trailer legislation to this. It seems that the state was pushing this out right away and wanting to get it, and there's a lot more questions to be asked and answered than are being done initially. So that may be out in the hopefully the near future than the farther. So
Absolutely.
Any comments by the board? Excuse me.
I appreciate legal counsel's explanation there. I was wondering why it was necessary to have ordinance versus state law but I see we can do it under ordinance if it's petty. I guess what I'm hearing is if it's a petty thing, which likely would not get the state's attorneys back in or whatever.
The ordinance itself is a petty offense, makes it a petty offense, opposed to a misdemeanor that some of, or civil. We've been enforcing our local ordinance as it is, and 2 years ago, maybe, I'm a little tough on talking about that, the state sort of changed and made them all civil violations, and we have declined on enforcing through the civil matter, and we've continued to enforce on the criminal matter with the local ordinance. So.
And I would say our historical practice has been consistent with most similarly situated communities in the area, and I believe that we will remain, from conferring with some other municipal attorneys for other communities in our area, I believe our approach to enforcement will remain consistent with what most other communities are doing to handle enforcement of the same issue in their towns.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
That's all I have. Yes, Your Honor.
Director of Fire and Emergency Services.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
All right. Director of Public Works.
2 items tonight, Your Honor. In front of you, I'd like to ask for approval of the 2-year contract extension from January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2024 for the purchase of electricity from Calpine Corporation.
We have a motion.
So moved.
I'll second that.
So to summarize, this is the supply portion of our village electricity. So, for example, our village facilities, streetlights, intersections, all that. Obviously, the wastewater plant, the water treatment plant are the big electricity hogs here. But with the rates still just hovering really low, and I dropped a sheet off in front of you right before the meeting. That's kind of hot off the presses. I highlighted in gray the lowest. But I've been working with Lands Energy for, gosh, he was here, Bill Lansford was here long before me. But he's been really good to work with. So we solicited proposals through Lands Energy. So we were able to solicit 4 proposals. We're currently with Calpine. So that I've got 3 more years with them under our current contract, and this one's even lower than that. So the difference, just to summarize, we're currently paying around $300,000, and I would anticipate this drops us in that $286,000 range. I caution that's anticipation. This contract is 80% around the clock fixed and 20% real time for on and off peak. So obviously the real time stuff could fluctuate a little bit, and then also tariffs could fluctuate annually too, and those are at the bottom. So that could change it a little bit, but I'm anticipating this to be a 5% decrease at this point for 2023 and 24 for what we're paying now. We talked about just going through 2023, but I think it seems like every year I've been here, it just keeps going lower and lower, and how much lower can it go? So I'd be glad to answer any questions that any of you have, but at this point I'd like to ask for approval tonight.
Any other comments? Call the roll.
Parrot.
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next, in front of you, I have Resolution 2620. This is a resolution authorizing intervention in the Panhandle Eastern Pipeline rate case, number 29-1523.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Unfortunately, I don't have good news here. I'll try to summarize, but I had sent all of you a memo working with Pratt briefly on this one. But this approval would authorize myself as Director of Public Works to execute agreements with both Blue Planet Energy Law and Dave Pitney LLC to perform legal services in connection to this rate case. This would occur over the next 18 months. So this started, several months ago. I'd even made contact with Panhandle to get some more information. Typically, we wouldn't intervene in these because we'd be the small guy and with the big fish.
Unfortunately, they're going after the small customer transport contract, of which we have. Ours currently runs through 2025. And briefly, that contract, basically, they have to give us maximum daily amount of 9,999 decatherms per day. It's a good contract that people have told me in the gas industry, don't get out of this. Someday we'll be out of it, just because there are days that we go over that even now, 3 times in January this year. But with our in and out storage contract, we're able to manipulate some of that. So to summarize, it's a very good contract. Unfortunately, here now we're the big guy, we're the big fish with a bunch of small fish. And due to the contract and working with Ron Reagan from Utility Gas Management, who buys our gas, the marketer for that, he is recommending now that we get involved with all the other communities and basically intervene. And it sounds like in most cases, and Pat, you can speak up, I'm not sure how much you've dealt with these, but or seen these, but it seems like they're always reduced to some amount, but when you intervene, hopefully it's even more. So there will be an increase. Hopefully it's not in this case, which is it's over 400%. So to put this in layman's term, I kind of ran some numbers with our bills that went out in just here recently, and the base rate would be about, this would be in terms of therms, we bill in therms, but basically we're in the $4.90 per therm. This rate increase alone would increase it to $6.73 to our customers. So a 35.5% is what customers would see, because this is basically a pass-through cost. Annual cost to us would be over $2 million. I think even upwards of $3 million based on our usage. So this is a very obscene request. I don't know in this case if they ask for high and end up low. Pat, I don't know if you want to comment on this.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't have a ton of experience in gas rate setting cases like this to where I feel like I could provide you a very informed projection. But I have confidence in the special counsel that's been recommended, that they will diligently represent your efforts, and in general terms and other similar matters like this, there's, I can't necessarily rationalize their thoughts and what they shot for, but I think your summation of a lot of times where it goes is correct. You shoot high and expect then you fall lower than that, but so.
No, thank you. And Pat's in conversations with Ron Reagan too. I always make sure that Pat's copied on everything he sends me, just as we work together. But I had sent you guys the memo too, so you got the list of the communities. Unfortunately, we're 33% of that. We are a very large municipal gas company, so these would be most of the panhandle customers that we're working with. It's not just UGM customers here, but my hope is over the next week or so that all of them will jump in. There is a chance some of those jump out, and our cost, I'd come back to you guys, but our cost could go up too. But I think everyone's going to jump in and be a part of that.
And a resolution is prepared to say we pay our pro rata share of the cost, so that we don't have to do 3 new resolutions if communities change.
So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. We currently spend about $600,000 on this portion of our bill, and it's a fixed cost based on our usage. So it would go from $600,000 based on what I've done for the last year. I've kind of ran the numbers just for the last year, which don't 100% match up here, but just for the last year we paid $603,007.31. For today, if the rate went for the same previous year, it'd be $2,953,510.69. So again, I'm just sharing how obscene this is, and that I think this is a good thing for us to move forward with, and over the next 18 months, hopefully we get some good news for our citizens. So again, this is a pass-through cost. When we get our gas costs, this just gets passed on right to the customer. So that's who we're helping out in this case. There's nothing in it extra necessary for us as far as our profit on top.
Any other questions? Call the roll.
Blunier.
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Mennel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Parrot.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Greg, thanks for your work on both those. Neither one of those are easy,
This one's not fun. Thank you.
so thank you. Zoning Code Enforcement Officer, Brett?
I have nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Village Trustees? All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.